Hey guys, welcome back. So we've got a large box of apple scraps on the floor, which means it's apple season. I go ahead and collect mine because ultimately I end up turning them into vinegar afterwards. So again, I'm just kind of slicing, and it's easier to just kind of slice them back into the box to keep the scraps. Cut out the core, which I keep those and use those in my apple cider vinegar as well. I just end up slicing my apples pretty thin into a pot that I have with lemon water in it to just prevent browning. And then once I have them all sliced from there, I'll drain that water out, rinse the apples, and then add a little bit of water back to the bottom of my pot when I start to cook it to avoid the apples from scorching to the bottom. Now, these actually cook up pretty quickly. Usually within a half hour, I can have them kind of be that, you see how it's kind of that mush consistency there in the pot. And then once they really start to break down and you start to get a good juice at the bottom, you see that apples are actually starting to kind of juice. You see there's a lot of liquid in that pot. I then take my immersion blender and just kind of go around blending everything together, getting a nice applesauce in there. Now, I don't add anything to it. Again, they were already soaked in a lemon water, so they're not going to brown. And I don't add any sugars because I used Honeycrisp apples, which were already super naturally sweet. If you end up having to use a tartar apple because of what's in your area, well, then of course you're probably going to have to add some sugar or another fruit. Do like a blueberry applesauce or a strawberry applesauce or something like that to add some sweetness back in if you don't want to add sugar. Now then from there, I have my fruit saver canner ready to go, which again, I like because I don't have to have this huge pot of boiling water on the stove to can these up, which is always nice. I start to fill my jars. Now, again, for me, applesauce is one of those things that I actually do large batch because my youngest will actually probably eat an entire jar of applesauce in one sitting. But if I was going to do, but you can do smaller as well. Just remember to adjust your canning times for your area and the size of jar. And I'll put a link to actually one of the recipes if I can find it below, or at least some tidbits of what I used for my area. But remember, always check where you are and your elevation. I'm at a pretty high elevation here, so I can't use what I used in North Carolina. So I processed these for 25 minutes. Again, using the fruit saver, which of course I had to bring it up to temperature on that as well. So we're just going to fill our jars, leaving a nice headspace, making sure we stir out our air bubbles, right? Because the air bubbles in there can do some browning, and we don't want that. So again, we're just going to make sure that we get everything in there, stir out our air bubbles, wipe off the rim of our jars, just standard natural process. For these, I make sure my jars are hot and they're clean and they're ready to go. So that way, again, we're not pressure canning. So we want to make sure that we're using as much of a sterile environment that we can to avoid any gunk getting into our applesauce. So to me, this recipe is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward because you're literally just slicing apples, letting them soak in a lemon water while you get everything, sliced up. Then you drain off that lemon water. You cook your apples down with a little bit of water at the bottom of your pot. Do not use chlorinated water. So if you're on a well, you're fine. If you have rainwater that's filtered, great. But if you're on city water, don't use the chlorine. Use some sort of other bottled water in there because it's kind of pointless to buy organic apples to make nice organic applesauces and then throw chlorinated water in. So again, all I'm doing here is wiping the rim to make sure that I get a good and nice seal. And then once my canner, my fresh saver comes up to the temperature that's required for my area, again, following the directions in the box, then I'll set my timer for 25 minutes because of the size of the jar that I'm canning here. You learn to work quick because you'll burn your hands. You really do kind of get used to it. And again, you're just going to kind of go hand tight on these. You're not going to try to, bear grip down on these things. You're just kind of going hand tight. My hand tight's different than your hand tight, so make sure that you adjust accordingly. And then we're just going to put that lid on, set our timer, and then when it's done, we'll come back. So it's been 25 minutes. So all I'm going to do now is take the applesauce out of the canner, put it on the countertop. Like I said, I'm going to put like very detailed instructions below for you guys if you want to make it. If you've got your hands on a good sweet apple and you want to make an easy applesauce, you can do this. Thanks for stopping by.